good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here today to be the moderator for my esteemed panelists today. So for this panel, we are talking about bolstering cybersecurity in the era of cyber threats for the digital space. So we are in a digital era where we have 5G that is readily available, where we have high speed, low latency, and high reliability. We are in a digital era where we have X as a service, we have infrastructure as a service, we have software as a service, we have network as a service, and so forth. And then we also in the digital era where dependency on accessibility of information for decision making is crucial for everybody. So thus we are here with our esteemed panel of experts here. And now with that, I would like to hand over to my panelists to introduce themselves for us to know more about themselves.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my honor to be here today as a panelist to review the interesting topic. My name is Chia. I'm the country director for VIM Malaysia and emerging market. I've been in VIM for about 6 years already, going into the 7 years. Right. Thanks.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am Bapu Shinde, and I am working in cloud and container space. I am also joining same panel to discuss about cybersecurity in cloud and container. Thank you.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Manmeet, and I'm kind of honored to be among the panelists today. I'm attached with School of Computer Sciences in University Science Malaysia, and my domain of interest is in smart security and data security. Yeah, back to you, Carrine.
Thank you. So now we actually know that we have a row of experts in the house today with us. So with that, right, I would like to start off with the first question. So I'll start with Chacha, right? Specific to your sector, what are the trends you see with regards to cyber threats in the cloud? And are there any changes over the last couple of years?
All right. My company, VIM, we are a data management company specialized in the backup and the DR. So we are basically across the sector. So the cyber threats, right, it has been one of the very popular topic right now, where any of the companies or the enterprises, when you wanted to explore the clouds or the cloud journey, you have to take into consideration all the potential cyber threat, right? So lately, what we have heard about, right, it is like zero exploit, right? This is the recent, a very popular. What is the zero exploit means? A zero exploit is simply means that those like software and the operating systems and all that, right? The developers or the R&D, they probably detect the flaw already, something so-called need to be rectified in the systems or in the software, but the patches are not available yet. So with this, the attacker will make use of the windows of the opportunity to perform the cyber threats, right? So that is one of the very common topic right now, zero exploit. What is the zero means? Zero means because you don't have the patches right now available. So it leaves you 0 day to fix. That means it's a best effort basis. You got to do it like right now with a lot of the efforts and a lot of last minute impromptu things to overcome the threats that is happen, right? And we also heard about the advanced threat, APT, advanced persistent threat, right? When you heard about the persistent, it means that, right, it is not just a by attack things in your environments, right? The attacker will stay in your environment. They can stay along just like COVID. You won't get the symptoms right away. It will be stay in your system. They can screen through all the sensitive data. Then when they get the data that they want, right, they can also move from workload to another workload. When it's times for them to basically get what they want already, that is where they will make use of all the high-tech systems that they have, right? And then they will sell your data, amend your data, they will get all the data that to their benefits, right? And we also heard about a lot of insider attack, inside attack right now, which is the employee or your vendor management, which is within your organization, because they have the access to your sensitive data and all that. That could be a potential exposure as well. So the last but not least will be the cyber attacks. That is where all your malware, your phishing emails and all that. So how do we mitigate this will be pretty much from your access control and your security training. So what is the notable changes? Come back to the topic, right? Basically, increase of the cloud adoption. If there is an increase of the cloud adoption, that also means that it will be increase of the awareness of the security requirement in the cyber threats and the cloud area, right? Because you want to engage the services in the cloud, but you need to know what it takes and what is the consequences and what are the things that you need to put in place before even that you go there, right? So that you're not opening the risk to the enterprises and all that. So these are the notable changes that we notice as a vendor. We notice it is a hot topic among all the enterprises. Then, of course, increase of the sophisticated tool and also the incident management system from the proactive, post-active, and also investment in terms of the business continuity. It is happening across the board.
Okay, Dr. Manmeet.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the question, Carrine. So looking back into the question presented, when you look into the education sector, we use cloud normally to increase accessibility. That means currently we could teach from anywhere, anytime, okay? The tool does support all this, and we have all this hybrid learning and collaboration tools, and there is also the benefit of scalability. That means many users could join in and be taught at the same time. And when we talk about trends, I would like to capture the before COVID and post-COVID. Why? Because as an educator, I could observe the adoption of cloud becoming more advanced. For example, before COVID, we were using cloud. It's true. We were using it for storages. And as an educator myself, normally I use Moodle to facilitate our teaching. So in Moodle, if any of you have used it before, it is a learning system. And in this learning model, what we can have is we can upload courses, we can even submit our assignment. But after COVID happened, cloud acceptance or adoption became vast. Here is where cloud currently is used in Moodle, but with virtual classrooms. We have WebEx, we have Zoom that is interactive, that allow interaction between users. So that is all good. And when we talk about Moodle, we are actually hosting online exams. So with all this, of course, the scalability of cloud helps. It does help us. And not only that, cloud also provides virtual lab simulations, and it also has data analytic tools. So with all these capabilities that cloud has, of course, the likelihood of attack will increase because the number of users have increased. So is the tool and the services. So as what Chacha mentioned earlier is on advanced persistent threat. We have done research on this. Advanced persistent threat is the threat that happens due to, first you got to have a phishing attack there. A phishing attack was simply when users that adopt the cloud is using single sign-on, for example. And imagine compromising their details through the emails. And without, we don't even know that the advanced persistent threat happens. So that is one. And imagine the data breach due to this taking place. What does the cloud has? Currently, the cloud have student data, if you are coming from the education line. It has confidential research data that is being funded by grants, millions of dollars, and financial data. So if this take place, the impact is adverse and it can disrupt the operation as well. So the third issue that could happen is, of course, we have ransomware. As I observed the video, I saw the ransomware problems and so on. That is real. There are universities out there that have been attacked by ransomwares. And this is due to the vulnerabilities that exist in the third system of cloud. So that is one of some of the issues that I could see happening with cloud.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mamit. I would like to wrap up all the points, but I think let's listen to Mr. Babu.
Thank you. I'll just extend what Ms. Chiachi and Ms. Manmeet has said about cloud adoption, right? Cloud adoption is not limited to industry. However, it is adopted by individuals also. If you look at since COVID, like everyone is using cloud storage for their personal info. Everyone is using cloud storage for their personal information as well, right? So still, I mean, the cloud threats are continuously increasing, evolving. And that is not limited to what is available on public forum, but however, it is even more depends on the industry you are running in, right? So still the top threat is data breaches, right? Data breaches, you see, it's sitting as a top position in the cloud security, and a strong defense for data breaches is identity and access management. If you have a first line of defense enabled with stronger security controls in IAM security, it will help to minimize the data breach and data loss. The second thing is, like in industry, you run your business not only depends on in-house application, however, you are using vendor applications where you have to ensure that supply chain security, right? That is another very important one in terms of cloud adoption, where rather getting packaged directly from publicly accessible repos, get it onboarded into your in-house repository, get it scanned, and then only use it, rather directly relying on to the external sources. The third one is especially financial industries, where they are compliance and regulatory is one of the very complex one to while adopting cloud solution, right? So, because data residency, data sovereignty, and data compliance plays a key role when it comes to laws and regulation. So that's the thing. And then in addition to Ms. Chiachia's point about APTs, advanced persistent threats, where these days the attacks, more sophisticated attacks are happening, where they will start over the period and ensure that the attacker will be being in your environment as a legitimate actor or user or a server, and it will ensure that all monitoring system will also not able to detect it. So having incident response planning in place and monitoring tools in place is very important. They plays a key role. At the same time, you can have testing, validation of these controls or solutions, tools you are using, right? That really helps. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, panel. So I think some of the points that was highlighted just now is, of course, Chacha brought in about APT, so advanced persistent threat. I think one thing that we always have to remember is that the relationship when it comes to attack is always many to one in terms of how many attackers out there to us. And our relationship as a defender is always one to many. So when it's advanced persistent threat, you have it every day because you are the target for them every day. So that is APT. And with cloud adoptions, of course, we can see that for the past couple of years, due to the pandemic and everything, the need and the adoption actually have been tremendous. So the increase of attack surface is definitely there. So with that also, and now also we are in the era where they are hacking as a service, readily available, right? So, and then just now Dr. Mamit spoke about accessibility, being accessible, scalable, and for industries such as academia, integrity of the data is very important. So this way, keep the grades. So how do you make sure that the integrity is there, right? So, and Bapu spoke about, I think one point that I would pick up from Bapu just now is about the incident response plan. How many of us have incident response plan? Many. From officially, we have one. How many actually we exercise it every year? And then, does all the information are still valid and true? And this morning, I read a report about how many of you here actually have a formal ransomware plan? Because we know ransomware is everywhere now. Okay, ransomware is here to stay. It's going to be more sophisticated. It's going to be more, I would say, aggressive as it goes on. So how many of us actually have a ransomware plan, a formal document for ransomware plan? Because it bounds to happen. So that's something that to think about. So from then on, actually, I would like to talk about cyber resiliency. Okay, so I would like to start with Dr. Mamit. So talk about cyber resiliency. So what's your thought about it? And what are your advice in terms of cyber resiliency?
All right, thank you for the question. So if you see cyber resiliency, it is basically not only to withstand attacks, but also to recover from the attack. So when we talk about recovery, we talk about how strong your systems are. We will always go back to security controls. We need to have robust security controls. Next is also we need to focus on resilience architecture. There should be load balancers, and then I find it very interesting to speak about security by design. When you talk about security by design, we are simply making sure that there is security at each layer. So here is where we will begin with the proactive strategies. Proactive strategies such as authentication and authorization, that is our first defense. So first of all, when you talk about authentication, we are talking about signing in, username, password, but it does not work right now. We need to have multi-factor authentication. It does increase it does increase into the defense mechanism, give a little bit hard work to the hackers, okay? But if let's say right now you are coming in with biometrics, in designing your authentication system, it becomes better. So when you have authentication system in place, what about the authorization? Of course, it allows only the authenticate users to go in. But when we have authorization systems such as role-based, this is where the authorization will work based on your job roles and responsibilities. So I captured earlier in the morning, one of the speaker was, I think one of the doctor was mentioning about least privilege. You need to have authorization system that is on least privilege and also need to know. That means that you should always begin with read access, and the need to know do not allow more access to a user that do not need it. So that is how we could actually protect the user end. But what about the data? So right now, the cloud is hosting data. So this is where the encryption of the data that is at rest and also in transit would be important. So you need to ensure the key management is there. So that is one of the hard things to manage, but if you have security administrators that are good, you need to have good key management. And encryptions are expensive, but you can always begin with symmetric base. And next is, of course, once you protect your data, what about the network then? So the network is where you have all these firewalls, IDS, intrusion detection system, and that could monitor all the traffic flow. So if you see, it is a protection that need to work layer by layer, and you need to use whatever is out there to ensure that the whole cloud system is resilient, not only towards the attack, but they could also recover back. So I think later on, the panelists will talk about the recovery. Yeah, back to you, Carrine.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's a lot to learn. Okay, so I think next, yeah, Bapu, what do you think about cyber resiliency? Yeah.
What I see right here, like consistency between environments, like whether you are development, non-prod and prod, these environments are consistent or not. That plays a key role to have a BCDR well planned to ensure business continuity and disaster recovery. Most of the times, the configuration or security controls implemented in production environment are not not get implemented in development environment, and that's the reason we couldn't see sort of misconfiguration, access related issue, encryption related issues, then monitoring as well, right? So having environment consistency across right from development to production plays a very key role here. Other than that, I will say, like as in point to access and identity management, right? That plays a key defense role here, which will ensure your data access, as Ms. Manpreet mentioned about need to know basis or least privilege principle, right? So even you are running one application, multiple application in the same infra, ensure that these applications will not have access to each other's data. That has to be deliberately granted access and ensure that that has been achieved. How it will be achieved? You can design by following the secure by design principle. To start it on it, you can start with the threat modeling where you can understand your application, then understand the context of application, build a data flow diagram where you can look into where my data is going and how applications are the microservices with an application interacting with each other, right? And then the network security also plays a key role here, where I can see most of the times north-south traffic is more secured. However, there is due diligence on the insufficient due diligence, I can say, in the east-west traffic, where again, need to know basis, it has to be, the access has to be granted, right? And secure your east-west traffic as well. Other than that, again, the same point, like since coming from finance industry, the compliance and regulatory is the key role, right? Where you have to ensure your backup, data backup solutions should be in place. And again, it has been tested and validated. The periodic testing and validation should be in place for that. Right, and lastly, but not least, the most important, get engaged with your cloud service provider to understand what are the new technologies has been onboarded, what new features has been implemented, understand security based practices from them, so that you can implement those use cases and have industry sharing, so that you can understand from others as well how this is mitigated or implemented secure configuration in production. Thank you.
So, Chacha?
Okay, I probably will come from the angle, I break it into three. We must have a very comprehensive strategy when it comes to how to increase the cyber resiliency. The comprehensive strategy is actually cover not just on one part, right? It has to be from the example, your network security, your system, your endpoint protection, and not just on all the tool and the system that you put in place. And how about your user, right? You can put all the access, put the best practice, but your employees, right? They have to be trained how to deal with all that, right? And control, training, and also the practice. I give you an example. For my organization, right? If we receive any of the emails and all that, right? If we think that we suspect that it's a phishing email, so what is our policy is that we will immediately, just one click, there is one button, suspect phishing email. We just click one button, it will route to our IT security department. They will validate, right? When they validate, they think it's clean already. Of course, the first thing, they will quarantine the email first. Then they will release to tell us that, okay, now it's clear. You can continue to read the emails and all that is clean. But if they find out that this is a phishing email, they will officially inform the sender, the requester, to say that, yes, this one looks like a phishing email, so don't do anything, and we already delete from the box, right? This is what I call it, the more like a proactive kind of action, right? So the comprehensive strategy will cover not just on the system, the tool that you put in place, but is the behavior, and also the, from all angle, right? And also it has to be follow your compliance, your processes, your rule and regulation, and all the training, right? The second point is proactive approach. Don't forget about all your vulnerability assessment, update your patches and all that. So I think most of the enterprise company right now is, right, if time's up already, they will enforce you. You log in through the computer, right? You need to patch, you need to update to the latest version. If not, then they will continue haunt you, do it, yeah. Or come to the point, if you still don't do it, right, you cannot access to the system because you are not getting the latest update, right? The third, but not, the third one would be the effective incident management. After you have the strategy, you have the proactive actions in place, if things still happen, right? Because the attacker right now is, right, the cyber attacker right now, they are very smart. Yeah, they are probably one of the most genius one in this planet, right? So if things happen already, how do you react? How do you do it? That is called the incident management systems, right? Where you put the policy in place, you got to react to the incident. The user or the IT department must know how to react. What are the proper processes they put in place, right? That is very important because you need to have a comprehensive business continuity plan so that you can quickly recover your data, right? And you can quickly recover your data, that at the same time that you don't disrupt your operation. You still can, yeah, we call it the buka kedai and do your business, right? Or else the image of the company, and also you'll be incurred a lot of loss, and also confidence among your customer, and also your branding. That is important. So in summary, you can't run away. You have to look at end to end when it comes to a comprehensive strategy to deal with this cyber resiliency.
Just to addition to Ms. Chia's point related to vulnerability management, right? Most of the times challenges comes where you use a legacy component where you don't have support and you still want to use those components and you don't have solution available for that. So try to either you look for alternative solution or you look into existing component. You may customize it and remediate those vulnerabilities which are sitting in your environment for longer duration. So continuous vulnerability management and risk assessment plays a key role to ensure that your systems are updated and patched, running with latest and greatest version. That will ensure that your systems or your production environment residual risk is minimal. Of course, I mean, you cannot make a risk as a zero, but always ensure that your approach as Ms. Chia mentioned, a proactive approach of remediating vulnerability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, panels. So I think just now each of the panel actually have discussed about cyber resiliency from slightly different angle, but all are very relevant. So cyber resiliency for any organization out there is that to know how fast can an organization get up once you have been shut down. So as an organization, something to consider is that if one organization is 100%, you need to know as an organization what is the critical 20% in terms of function and delivery that delivers the 80% of the success of the company. So for every organization, cyber resiliency doesn't mean that you have to up everything at one go. But one of the main things that you need to know is what is the utmost critical first. First thing that you need to go home, as an organization that you need to do is identify what is the 20% that delivers the 80%. That would be the jewel of the company. So that is the one that is going to ensure the deliverables and the livelihood of the organization. Right. So of course, cyber resiliency, a lot of time we talk about BCM, we talk about data recovery and all that. But that is also something that is very important, is talking about knowing the organization inside out, to know each of the function and the deliverables for every department, every function. Not everyone is created equal, and so is the data. Not every data that we have in an organization are equally as important, right? So this is something to look about, and also something to look into. What is the strategy? Should we do hybrid, multi-cloud, or maybe to shift everything out, And now also we have a workforce that is working from everywhere, right? A lot of us are back in the office, but a lot more of us are only back on certain days. So when that happens, what will happen? Right? So, and just now as a panelist, with my panelists, we were just doing a chit chat earlier on. This is a question that I want all of you to go home and think about it. So in every incident plan, and every recovery plan, there's always, these are the steps that we're going to take. These are the people that's in charge. These are the mobile numbers to call. So what if you have an emergency that the telcos are down? We do not have access to this. So what is your plan? So there's no answer. Go home and think about it. Okay, so something to do that in your next plan. What if email is inaccessible, where is it's a national emergency where telcos are down, everything is down. So how do you access to that? So go home, sleep on it, and figure it out, okay? There's no right or wrong answer for this, okay? So so we move on to the next question. So the hot topic nowadays is always about ChatGPT, AI assisted, machine learning and so forth. So so maybe we start with Bapu now. So what do you think about that? What sort of threats does it bring? Is it more pro than cons? So what's your thoughts?
What I think, it comes with great impression of innovation and research in terms of using ChatGPT. At the same time, it has to be very careful decision while implementing it when it comes to data privacy, data security, data inaccuracy, and then and most importantly, how you are implementing ethical AI principles, I would say. So when it comes to data privacy, it's like individual data, it could be organization data, it can be your customer data. So because it is purely based on what, it's like input, process, output. So if your input is wrong, definitely you'll get the output is wrong. But at the same time, ensuring that whether the input you are giving, it has to be basis data classification, data segmentation while using it to ensure that data privacy, whether it is individual, organization, customer or employee. And then data security is like you have to identify your sensitive data, whether it is personal data or it is intellectual property or any other confidential data, especially when it is you work in the government industry, right? So again, if you want to use it, you ensure that you are using it carefully. You are not providing more information. Especially mask data can be used, which will not give any exposure, or it is just or you can use a mock data to generate models and see the results. At the same time, data inaccuracy, like again, if I don't know like how many of you, but sometimes I used to get a response from ChatGPT. Hey, I don't know. I know until from the 2021. I don't know anything before that, right? So, or you can give any word which is nowhere exist, and you can see result. It is really unable to give you a response because it is purely based on the data model which is already built by machine. And that's where the human's intelligence comes into the picture, where I would say like chat gpt can be used. At the same time, it should be in control way, where so that it should not take control over humans. Rather, humans should control these generative AI solutions. And the last point I mentioned about ethical AI principle, like what do you mean by ethical, right? So using any of these AI tools, they should be transparent and they should explain how this data is getting processed and action, how it is generating output, so that gives trust and confidence about your data is being used, right? Then second is data privacy and data security. So this data, since this data is processed, it gets stored somewhere, and this data should not be available publicly, and it should not be used for other use cases. That has to be very important in terms of data privacy and protection, right? Because when it comes to regulatory and compliance, it is always very first question, how you are ensuring your data is within your trust boundary. Don't let it exit trust boundary, right? And then building ethical AI principle would really help. Probably you can think and you can do research on it, like how it can be implemented. That would be really helpful.
Thank you. I think with the constraint of time, right? I think we're already at 000. So, okay, I would like to end this panel with maybe a message from each of the panelists. So we start from Dr. Manmin, please.
All right, the time is our enemy today. Okay, so looking at what mentioned earlier, I wanted to actually share the problem with ChatGPT. Everybody is talking about it. Okay, and when you say ChatGPT, of course, it helped the education and the education sector. It is it is a help to the educator and also a nightmare to us. But looking into the good stuff ChatGPT brings, it is not at its advanced state. Okay, what I can say is, of course, you can do research with ChatGPT. It will give you exploratory research, good to generate ideas, but it does not go in depth. There is no in depth there. It's just generalization, and there is also lack of critical thinking. Humans do not gonna think. They are just going to ask their question and they believe whatever ChatGPT tool is going to provide as a response. So here is where the human intervention or the human judgment need to be embedded. So my humble request to all of us, to all of you out there, is always when you are working with AI systems, always verify and validate. When you talk about verification, we verify what we get. When you talk about validation, we are validating the tool, whether is it actually functioning as it's supposed to do. Like what Bapu mentioned about you do not know what happened in the processing part. That is the black box. So how can you trust the response then? So it's something for us to think of. Keep AI, use it, but always use human judgment as well, because that is going to help you through and to really make sure that whatever you get from that tool as an assistant that supports you would be the best decision that you're going to make for your organization. Yeah, so that's all for me.
Thank you. A short one from Bapu. Any short message?
I think pretty much we discuss. I would say like don't be or react on the chat GPT consumption, or it is its adoption by individuals. I think organizations are still picking up and they are still working on it. So nothing wrong in that, as Manpreet mentioned, right? You can still use it. You have to educate. You have to empower, right? You have to evaluate, so that definitely you can use ChatGPT. But at the same time, again, during our offline discussion, we were discussing, right? Are we making ourselves dependable, or we are living in independent world? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
In summary, I think the AI tool is wonderful. Okay, it really can enhance a lot of the so-called enhance the systems and all that. Just give you an example, like for VIMS, what we have, right? We actually embedded the AI technology in our systems, whereby we detect, right? We can detect a huge volume of files. If there is a behavior, abnormal behaviors and all that, we will trigger to the security officers to say that there is something abnormal happening. But what I'm trying to say here is, no matter how AI tool, how much AI technology that you use it in your system or environments, right? You still cannot 100% depends on them. There's still a human brains that it called the shot, basically, right? Yeah, so it's a combination of the technology tool and also the policy and your comprehensive strategy in place. That is where you can reduce as much as the cyber security issues in your environment. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. A very short one from me for all of you out there. Be current and be collaborative. Be current means the threats out there are ever evolving. What happens today would be different tomorrow. Know how the threats are moving, how the trends are moving. Be collaborative. I think cyber criminals, one thing, they move very fast because collaboration makes it easy. Okay, and for us, for collaboration among us, it takes a lot of process and steps. So be more collaborative in the industry and be current with your knowledge. And with that, I will end my panel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you once again for the very informative session.